he was talking about his debate on who he was going to start, who he was going to go. Do you think that this year there is more pressure than ever under his 49ers tenure for Kyle Shanahan to win the Super Bowl?
Oh
Because
yeah.
if you think about last year, they were kind of playing on house money because Brock Purdy was such a surprise. When Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback, So, like, it felt like there was always an excuse. This year, it feels like this 49ers team, we're going to talk about it, but they, have the most Pro Bowl players out of any team in the league. They have stars on every level, and Kyle Shanahan has a above average competent quarterback. He, talking about that Pro Bowl, he had the most Pro Bowl votes out of any quarterback in the NFC. So that, in my mind, kind of says he's the NFC MVP. Maybe Lamar is ahead of him, and we can talk about team importance and players later on, but definitely a better, more confident quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo, and they were up by 10 in the fourth quarter in the Super Bowl then. So do you think that Kyle Shanahan maybe feels more pressure than he has before to win it all this year? Aging
I
team.
wouldn't say he feels pressure. I just think he just really desperately wants it because he's incredibly thirsty about it. It's like when you're in a desert, you don't have water, and it's like for so long, and it's like I need that chip on my shoulder because he knows he's had plenty of good seasons, even dating back to his offensive coordinator days with the Atlanta Falcons. But yeah, even like I said, even before entering the season, like there always was that Super Bowl pressure, but it continues to get even. It continues to make it more of an emphasis that anything less than a Super Bowl win, not an appearance, a Super Bowl win, anything less than that is a failure. If they go to the NFC Championship game and lose, failure. Go to the Super Bowl and lose, failure. Anything's a failure. You have to win it. There's no excuses. The Pro Bowl, I know the Pro Bowl is pretty much diluted for the last like 5 to 8 years, but still, it's kind of. I mean, I think we can all acknowledge like they're all.
Is it true that fans can vote as many times as they want?
They only accounts for a third of the vote though, while the players and coaches account for the other 2/3. So it does have an impact, but I wouldn't say like it's heavily
You
conservative.
have spent time in the locker room, right?
Yeah.
At time. Have you ever seen, like, do the players and coaches take that seriously?
The Pro Bowl? I think
Just
they like
voting
that
for
as
their,
like an
like, does
honor and
everyone just
accolade.
vote for their own player? Is it something where the 49er players vote for all the 49er players, or do you think that people try to enter on?
And that breakdown, I don't know, but I do know like they like for like the honor and the accolade, it's dope. But ultimately, like when you're a playoff contending team, like you don't give a shit about it because what if you're worried about that? That means you're not going to the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
And they want to go to the Super Bowl. So, and that, especially in that Super Bowl year, like I remember everyone was like, yeah, Jimmy probably should have been it at that 2019 year. But ultimately, they're all like, yeah, it's great and it's cool.
He
But
went on
like,
a podcast and he was like mad that he didn't get in it. I remember.
yeah, but yeah, so I think, yeah, no matter what, anything's less than a failure. Like you already have the first round bye. You only got to play 2 games, get to the Super Bowl. And honestly, you're head and shoulders above the rest of the next NFC team. I saw you and Steph talk about threats in the NFC. I'm not worried about anyone that's not named the Rams, and even that's not like too threatening. Like it's threatening, but it's not like, oh God, like I'm scared. Like it's like I wouldn't say it's a lock that they win, but I'd say it's a very strong chance that they win, or a pretty good chance that they win. Anyone else like Eagles, Cowboys, Lions, is like come on. Like it's like NFC is like the weakest it's ever been. It felt like too because there's no elite quarterback that can challenge you like that Packers team in
Which is the
2019.
weird thing, right? Because in the heyday of the 49ers, the way my dad always describes it to me is it was like whoever won in the NFC, whether it was like the Cowboys or the 49ers, that was the team that was going to go on and win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, the NFC
Where
for that 10
now
years were dominant.
it feels, for the last couple of years, it's felt the opposite, right? It's felt like, for the last couple of years, it's felt like the Chiefs are going to win no matter what. But it's felt like whatever team from the AFC is more dominant than the NFC. And right now, this year so far, it's been looking similar. Now, I do think that the 49ers could contend. But yeah, it is kind of one of those things where it does seem like a much, like if you had to take, someone was talking about this, like right now, the 49ers are still, and this was maybe a couple days ago, so I don't know if it's changed, but if you were gambling, the 49ers are still leading the like they're the favorites to win the Super Bowl.
Makes
And
sense.
when I first heard about that, I was like, why wouldn't the Rams, why wouldn't the Ravens be? Because the Ravens just beat the 49ers. But I think what you have to consider is like
the path to get there.
The path for the Ravens to get to the Super Bowl is going to be way harder than the path for the 49ers to get there.
Because the Browns could be like a handful for them, and even though the Chiefs are like barely a good enough team, it's like you're never going to be like, an Andy Reid Chiefs Patrick Mahomes team. You're never going to scoff at it, even if like it does kind of look like, yeah, they probably will be a one and done or something like that. But I think no matter what you're considering them, and then a surging hot Bills team, like it's a lot of craziness going on in that AFC. But yeah, so that's why I think back to that Kyle Shanahan having stress. It's like, imagine him being stressed right now. It's like, I'm trying to figure out who I can play. Because number one, he's breaking it down like who I have to sit out, injuries. Okay, boom, easy. And then he'll take it from there and like who else he can actually sit. And obviously who's the most influential player in terms of position, quarterback. You always say like, he's the one that touches the ball the more. He's the one that can hurt the game or make the game better. You already got McCaffrey out. And at that point, I think the next point is just putting Trent Williams. So now it's like, all right, once we get there, who do I have to worry about? Because imagine Deebo Samuel, George Kittle do have a little bit of injury prone tendencies. It's like, how do I really like handle these guys? How do I structure them into this playing time? Which it's got to go into preseason mindset. But even then, like preseason mindset is like only half of it because you have double your roster for the preseason. You can't have them be like, I'm only going to play you like 3 drives and I'm pulling you out. It's probably going to be like, I'll play you like a half, maybe even 2.5 quarters, maybe 3 quarters.
Can I ask you a side question within this conversation really quick? Is there any player that you think maybe will get more playing time that you're excited to see? And I'm saying this kind of because I want to answer my own question. I wonder if they're going to play with all the injuries that have gone on in that secondary. I wonder if they'll play more of Samuel Womack. I feel like that would be an interesting because this game is a good opportunity.
Jason Verrett.
Yeah, Jason. I would, in my head, and maybe this game will figure it out. I would think that you would want to start Samuel Womack before Jason Verrett, but it sounds like they have the opposite mindset.
No, they want to play Jason Verrett. They have a soft spot for him. I mean, we already saw it against the Ravens game, how they randomly played him in that game, right? Which I thought was weird. It's like, wait, you played him in that game, but you didn't want to play him in the Commanders game when you were pretty much running away with it midway through the fourth quarter. So, I mean, that move in itself kind of explained to me just like it was like an arrogant move. That they really just wanted to see. They really want to desperately cling on getting back Jason Verrett to that 2020 version. When it's like 2020 version was, first of all, 4 years ago, I guess if you want to count that, with what two more significant injuries atop his body. Like, that's not like, come on, man. Like, it's one thing to have some hope, but it's another thing to be delusional and arrogant like the way they did that. But this is the game I guess you would want to put him in, right? Where you can like pull out Diamador. But then again, they're not going to be able to activate all of them either because, like, how many corners you're not going to sit both your corners in Ambry and Diamador. They're both going to have to play. So you're probably going to have to shuffle them.
Ambry, right? Because he has the hand. He's coming back.
Ambry, yeah. Ambry, yeah, for sure.
I didn't see the update with him. I know he played last week, and I think Kyle Shanahan said that if he had to go week 18, that he could, but I imagine that they won't, like, push him.
Did he? Because he said he was getting the surgery regardless.
Yeah, but he said with the club on it, he could go, but I think they're going to sit him regardless. But see, that's what I'm saying. Like I would probably want to sit Ward after maybe play everyone for like a quarter. But like Charvarius Ward, imagine Charvarius Ward goes down in the freaking Rams game that doesn't mean anything. That's why there's so much pressure on Kyle. Is it feels like no matter what happens, like if they come out rusty, people are going to be like, Kyle, why didn't you play your guys? But if a player gets hurt, people are going to be like, Kyle, what the hell were you doing? Why was he on the field? And it seems like Sean McVay, at least when we're looking at preseason, he's always kind of gone. Set. Yeah, he's gone for
but sitting. That's the thing. Like, roster limitations aren't going to have these guys like be able to have that luxury. So some of them are going to have to play like a good portion of the game. Like, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm aiming at. Like half. Like, expect a half from a lot of these guys for the most part. Then maybe even leak into a good like even half of the second half. You know. So I guess would be the whole thing.
I was talking or having this thought experiment with I think Steph and. An issue with, because how you're saying in the preseason they have more players, an issue is say like they take some of the starters out, but then the backup gets hurt. Now you have a starter that just like mentally, took themselves out of the game, and now they have to go back in. That's how injuries happen. That's how Jason Verrett got hurt against the Lions. I remember Nick Bosa complained about that. So, like, that's another thing is once you're sitting, you need to make sure that your guys can sit. So you have to have enough players where if someone gets injured, you don't have to put the starter back out there against other, like, third stringer guys. You know what I mean? Do you agree? I like Robbie V Gaming said Kyle Shanahan has the most pressure as a coach to win a Super Bowl. I want to
Everyone on
take
the 49ers has the
all
most
the teams
pressure.
in the NFL. Do you think that
Yes.
Kyle? I agree. I think
there's no question about that.
because
The
Andy
49ers
Reid,
as a whole do like
he has if we look at Andy Reid, he's won a bunch of Super Bowls. I feel like everyone can kind of
But it's
give
not even just that. It's also like the fact, like, hey, like everyone was pounding the table, mainly people in 49ers land, about Brock Purdy's the MVP, literally 2-3 weeks ago. So I was like, okay, so just because he's gonna lose it and not in the running anymore doesn't mean he's not MVP candidacy or caliber, right? Pro Bowl caliber, maybe even teetering all pro, I guess. So if we're using that logic, then okay, even more pressure on Purdy as well. There's no excuses for him because there was already crowning against him, that people were just hyping him up. It's like, okay, well, now let's see it. We saw him play well in the playoffs last year. I have no doubt about it, but now it's like, okay, now let's finish it. Can we finish it? Will he do it? And I'd say the concern about that, I think he and the 49ers are lucky because when they do face that elite defense, that I know I got back to with you like a week or two ago, is he can't do things against the poor defenses that he can do against the elite defenses, like that second pick he threw. So I guess that's always going to be the one concern, like how he's going to fare against that elite team that he gets to. Which again, it's like, all right, if you're that mental toughness that I always think this is best straight, that's something that he should improve on going into the playoffs. Which again, I'm not worried about any NFC team. He could probably have a lull, and I think they'll still come out of it. But I'm talking about when they get to the Super Bowl.
on at this point when we're talking about talking about pressure and coaches. I think I know my answer, but I'll ask just to make sure. Do you think that there's pressure on Nick Sirianni to win a Super Bowl? More pressure on Kyle Shanahan than Nick Sirianni because
more pressure on Kyle Shanahan for sure, but there's pressure. It's kind of close to Sirianni.
Like if they go one and out, are they gonna fire him?
There's pressure on Sirianni, especially because like how it's derailing so badly the last month and a half. So yeah. It's possible they could fire him, yeah, but I feel like he could probably scapegoat because I know the defensive coordinator situation was weird this offseason, which I almost forgot about. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Like then again, I was gonna leave or not, and then Vic Fangio, I was like, oh yeah, that's true. They did kind of screwed on that end, but yeah, it's kind of like I don't know the way it's looking ugly. I did not in my million years that they're gonna lose to the Cardinals, especially like that. Like I actually watched some of that game back. I was like, damn, it wasn't like an actual battle. Like you guys kind of like looked like you didn't belong with the Arizona, which is crazy to me. Niners broke them.
Sirianni already have a ring? Am I dumb?
As a head coach? No.
I didn't think so. Yeah. The Eagles have Eagles went to a Super Bowl. I think like just going to a Super Bowl gives you a little bit more time. We could also say when we're comparing coaches, and they might not even freaking make it to the playoffs, but Buffalo.
Oh yeah, McDermott,
yeah. But see, I think with both of those, with Sirianni, I think as long as they don't have a first round exit, he'll be okay. And I kind of think that same thing. I think if Buffalo gets in, I don't think that they're going to fire him. I also don't think they'd fire Kyle Shanahan, but I feel like
no, they'd never.
He's to win the Super Bowl. I mean, you're right. I didn't phrase that well. They're not. I don't think. There's no way they're firing him. But when it comes to like which team has the highest expectations to win a Super Bowl, I do think out of all of the teams that are competing in the playoffs, it is the 49ers.
Yeah, at this time, it's 49ers.
They have the head coach, they have the quarterback, they have the team, and their team is aging. It kind of feels like, Eric Armstead missed 8 weeks in a row. I think it was 6 games, but he missed a game, then started, and then missed 6 last year. This year, he's on pace to.
His body's breaking down. His foot issue. His foot
first round of the playoffs, he's missed 6. Trent Williams misses games every year. I'm not saying
this might be his last year. Who knows?
Do you think? I think that he wouldn't retire if they didn't win a Super Bowl. I think he wants to win a Super Bowl.
He's always, no matter what, going to be in that question mark category for me. No matter what, they win it for sure. He's gone. They lose it. Likely he comes back, but still, it's like, who's to say? And then plus, again, you can't ruin like your chance with Purdy being this low cost right? Because after this year, you have one more year before it's his turn to get paid.
Yeah. But I think just with the NFL being down, I mean, Joe Burrow, like these, you know, you don't want these things, but Joe Burrow's injured. Like the Chiefs are
Not the Chiefs.
freaking little
Still a good
divas
team
right now.
in retrospect, but in used to what were you? I mean, still a good team in like NFL terms, but in retrospect to what the Chiefs have been the last like 8 years, like this is probably the worst team under Mahomes.
Exactly.
Not probably,
So
it is.
I do think that this year, Kyle Shanahan, it makes sense that I noticed right away in that press conference, it felt like he was like his eyes were like wide. It was nice because I felt like he gave a detailed answer. But I think of myself when I'm anxious, I kind of like I start kind of like I get wide eyed and I talk kind of fast. I'm trying to like explain, and it felt like that Kyle Shanahan did that like in the press conference, and then like kind of caught himself and was like,
I know what you're going through, Kyle.
talking. Really quickly, I wanted to shout out. Do you want to pronounce this guy's name for me?
No, you pronounce it. This is your show.
Ernesto?
Okay, now say his last name.
Well,
we're working on it, guys. We're working on her.
I was literally thinking earlier, I'm so upset that now that the holiday season is done, they don't make my almond milk eggnog, which secretly just tasted like horchata.
Almond milk eggnog.
I sent it to you. Remember I told you it tasted like horchata? I don't know why they called it eggnog. It's just like milk that had seasonings in it, which is kind of what, or not spices. It's not but it's just like a salty milk. No, like a sweet one, which is what horchata is, right?
Sure.
Anyways, he said thank you for the content. He was interacting in the comments a lot, so I just wanted to bring up his comments. And then Sports Talk says, "Hi Ashley, hi Jose.
What's up?
Fans want Sirianni gone just as much as fans on this side want Kyle Shanahan gone." I don't think that that's true. I think Eagle fans want. See, he said yes. Wait, hold on. I tried to find. I did great. I think that fans are really happy with Kyle Shanahan right now. Kyle Shanahan and his dad's shadow. I will say, I think that Kyle Shanahan also wants to win a Super Bowl because it helps his dad's legacy, and his dad is up for to be in the Hall of Fame. Do you think that if Kyle Shanahan wins the Super Bowl, that increases his dad's chance of getting in there?
No, has
it's
nothing
like a
to
part
do
of
with
his
that.
coaching
It
trait.
helps himself. I mean, it'd be cool. He can glow. He's like my son. And if you ask Mike Shannon, I don't think he gives a damn about his own legacy. He's just happy about like how Kyle's doing it.
But Kyle gives a damn about his dad's legacy.
Well,
like,
yeah, 2019, he handed him the NFC Championship trophy. Like, let him know, like, here, Dad, like, that's great, but it's not going to help Mike's legacy. His legacy is